now we have seen and heard the marked scripture through the children's moment and the telling of the call of the disciples. We've experienced that call through music as the choir and our special musicians today have led us and answering the call to follow Jesus. And now we are going to hear from the prophet Isaiah, who Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all believe spoke about Jesus when Isaiah told of the Lord's servant. Hear now from Isaiah chapter 49, verse 1. Listen to me, O coastlands. Pay attention, you people from far away. The Lord called me before I was born. While I was in my mother's womb, the Lord named me. The Word of God for the people of God. It's my pleasure to introduce to you, if you do not already know him, TJ Evans, who is the moderator of our congregation. He is going to be bringing the message today. I invited him to do so several months ago when he shared with me a great epiphany he had about this story, about the calling of the disciples. And so I've invited him to come and share that message with you today. And since it's the season of Epiphany, how more appropriate could it be? TJ?
You know, it's funny when he calls it an epiphany. I call it a long, angry email and a rant. But, you know, whatever. Different words, different people.
Different names.
Yeah. What's my name?
Yeah.
Okay. Really? Is that really my name? Are you sure? Sometimes your names depend on who you ask. People usually call me TJ, as you all just did. When I'm introducing myself to people, I'll 9 times out of 10 call myself TJ. As a matter of fact, I'm so used to going by TJ that I sometimes forget that my legal name is Timothy James Evans. I'm so unused to it that I don't respond to it sometimes. When I was in college, I was taking an 8 a.m. organic chemistry class, which is literally the worst time to take anything that has the word chemistry in it. I've had this professor just a few times, just a few classes, 7. I had been in his classroom, in the same room, in the same seat for 3 years. Small school. For 3 years, this man has only ever called me TJ. I don't even know if he knew my real name was Timothy James Evans. But we're there, it's 8, it's early, I'm lost. And I obviously looked confused because Dr. Hedgecock said, "Hey, Timothy, what's going on? What's the problem?" Nothing. My friend, who also has sat next to me in that same seat for the last 7 classes, said, "Hey, dude, he's talking to you." I snap out of it, we go on with life, and, you know, class is over. 2 days later, I'm going back to class, and now you all can imagine what my inner monologue sounds like. He's going to call me Timothy. He's going to call me Timothy. Listen for Timothy. He doesn't remember that my name is TJ, which is fine. He's going to call me Timothy. Respond to Timothy. So I'm sitting in class trying to absorb whatever he's trying to do on the board, which, I don't know. And he apparently, again, looked confused because there's only so many ways that carbons can be strung together and look different. And he says, "Hey, TJ, you look confused again. What's going on?" Nothing. At all. So again, a nudge, and we get through it. About Timothy, I think my mom chose the name Timothy James Evans because it's really good to yell when you're getting in trouble with a kid. "Timothy James Evans, get your butt over here." I hear that frequently, just somewhere. There's another name that I go by, and it's to a very small group of people. My brother, Jessamine, Dustin, my best friend from high school, and Kendall, my college roommate. They're just as likely to call me T as they are anything else. "Hey T, what's up? How you doing, T?" It just kind of happened organically. Why they felt the need to take a name that was 2 syllables long and shorten it to 1 syllable, I don't know, but I find it sweet. It's, it shows a connection on a really deep personal level. They know a lot about me, I know a lot about them, so it just kind of happened. Another name that everyone in this building has probably heard me called at least 30,000 times is Daddy. It's Liam's friend. Dad! Hey, Daddy! Hey, Daddy! I think he knows my name is TJ, but sometimes I don't really think it's sunk in, because if you ask him, hey, what's Daddy's name? He goes, Daddy TJ! And, but the thing is, Daddy's no less of my name to him than anything else. If you tell him, take this to Daddy or go get Daddy, he'll go to the room wherever I am, come straight to me, even if there are other people in the room who also call Daddy. And, I'm sorry, but it is my favorite name on the list. At least the first 30,000 times. There's another name that I have that's from a really small group of people, about a dozen. It's also very different from everything else on the list. It's Desudro, or Des. This is the name that I go by to my gaming group. And we meet a few times a week, yell profanity at each other over the internet, fight horrible monsters, and laugh a whole lot in the process. It's funny, Jessamine and I have had the same gaming name since about 2004, 2005, and it's gotten to the point where we'll call each other our gaming handles in real life when talking about each other, and sometimes we do it in front of other people and we don't even realize that we did it. So what do all these names mean? What do they do? What's in a name? Most of these names are fairly different. TJ, Timothy James, T, Daddy, Desudro, and a whole host of other nicknames that I haven't had time to delve into here. Why do I have so many names other than the one that I was given? Shoot, you all have given me the name Mr. Moderator. I've heard people call me that more than a few times, and I don't mind at all, but that's still another name that I, pay attention to, I identify with. Most of you, if you think about it, will find that you've got quite a list of names too. Have any of you ever thought about how many names you have before? So take a minute and think about those. So, what do these names do? At a bare minimum, names identify. All of these names identify different aspects of me. If you come up to me and say, excuse me, Timothy, but the attitude and mannerisms I'll express will be very different than if you were to come up and say, hey, T. My gaming group, who, as I mentioned, know me as Des, know I'm generally old enough to have a kid who's still young. I'm no longer in school. I'm married to Nim, own a house, and live somewhere in the central Kentucky, southern Midwest area. But other than that, they just know basal, superficial level stuff. There might be one or two that I've gotten close to over the years who know me a bit more, who know my real name and Jess's real name, and pictures of our kid, and we share pictures of our kids. But they don't know a whole lot about me, but the people that call me T know a great deal about me, and vice versa. I know a great deal about them too. Names for a long time have been used to identify people's relationships to each other. Think about surnames. All the Johnsons. Oh, that's Steve, John's son, and eventually it became Johnson. Oh, there's Bob the Carpenter, eventually became Bob Carpenter, or the Smiths, or the Fletchers. When these kinds of names were new, they were directly informative of the person. Sometimes people change names for various and sundry reasons. Does everyone remember this? When Prince became the artist formerly known as Prince and changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol. This reminds me of my favorite artist, the artist of my favorite painting. He painted, it's not a painting, it's a woodblock print, but this is the Great Wave of Kanagawa. created by Katsushika Hokusai. It said that he went through 30 names before he died. And he went through 4 of those names before he even became famous for this painting and the painting of Red Fuji. Talking about Hokusai reminds me that Japanese has a kind of a neat feature when it comes to the word for name. There's lots of ways to ask someone their name, but the one I'm going to focus on is this. Kimi no namae wa nan desu ka? This is long. It's really formal and slightly impolite. But it's the third character that I want to talk about. The next time, please. So, these kanji are, you have to think about them like words, and they have an origin in Chinese pictography. And this one symbol is made out of the smaller symbols for a crescent moon and the mouth. And the original Chinese interpretation of the symbol was to call out into the darkness. So if we take that literal meaning and plug it back into the sentence, instead of what is your name, the sentence can be perfectly read, how are you called? As we heard in today's children's moment through the worship and wonder story, that Jesus' disciples were called by name. He goes to them wherever they are, calls them by name, and asks them to follow him. In another worship and wonder story, the parable of the Good Shepherd, after the sheep get put in the sheepfold, we introduce the Good Shepherd and explain, the sheep know the sound of my voice, and I know each of my sheep by name. It seems to me that reaching out to people and calling to them, calling out in the darkness to them, using the very way that they identify themselves is important. If the point of being a Christian is to be more Christ-like in our actions, it is important that we reach out to people in the most direct way we can and call them by name to express their welcome and to ensure that they know that we are calling to them directly. In October, we held a congregational meeting to discuss budgeting solutions for the remainder of the fiscal year. Part of that meeting included a discussion of the list in our Open and Affirming statement. People complained that the list would be impossible to list everyone, so by removing it, we'd be including everyone so someone couldn't be forgotten. As a person who was on the council when that statement was written, and one of the ones that contributed to the actual writing, I can assure you that the way the statement is worded is 100% intentional to cast as wide a net as possible, and to ensure that everyone was included. While yes, I do agree that it is impossible to list everyone, the way the list was written is by using qualities that everyone has, whether they're in the majority group, minority group, or a member of a marginalized group. I'm a member of at least 2 groups that would be considered marginalized in a church setting. Of the people in this room, I am literally the last one that should be standing up here delivering a message of faith. I struggle with my faith daily. Most days, I'm not sure if I believe, let alone what I believe. When I was asked to join the Executive Council 3.5 years ago, I was as transparent as possible and informed them of my doubts. They assured me it was fine. It was, and I assume it still is, since you all haven't asked me to leave yet. I do feel, though, that through some of the efforts and work that I've been a part of, that on most days, I don't think it's all completely crap. That if expressed the right way, my faith is stronger than it was when I first started coming to Twin Pines. But it isn't just me. Since the passing of that statement, I've had others come to me to tell me that they are happy and thankful to be in a place like this because when they were growing up, they had to hide a part of themselves from everyone at the church. But now their kids won't have to grow up in a place that makes someone do that. I've been told that at other churches, someone had to hide their living situations with their partner because they lived together but they weren't married, so it just wasn't proper. But they don't have to do that here. They can be themselves. I've had people tell me that they never thought they had the money to belong to a church, but because we value more than the dollar here, they can serve, not just attend. I had a friend who, for the sake of the story, we'll call Alan, grew up in a much more conservative setting than I did, even though we were from the same town. As is the case with the small community, we had a friend in common. We'll call Ben. Alan wanted to invite Ben to church, so he went to ask his parents' permission if it would be okay to invite him. And he was told, "I'm sorry, honey, but his parents are divorced and our church doesn't allow that, so he wouldn't be welcome." Even at 6 or 7, I was flabbergasted. A child couldn't go because their parents were divorced? This isn't the way a church should be. It's important to remember that welcoming statements, or O&A statements, or membership statements, or things of that nature, are very rarely written for the people that already attend that church. The people already here know they're welcome. They didn't need a statement that expresses to them that they're welcome to come and join. However, for people who are used to being told that they're unwelcome, members of the LGBT+ community, persons of color, the divorced, the unwed fathers and mothers, the people who are struggling to put food on the table, it's important that we reach out and call them by name to come and walk with us on our spiritual journey. So what's in a name? If you ask me, a name is identity, relationships, acceptance, and inclusion. Call out in the darkness. Call people by name. Identify with them. Form relationships with them. Accept them and include them in your walk of faith.